The center was started by a group of people that were involved in Department of Human Services at various levels. For the first probably 10 or 12 years, we had financial difficulties often. We were wondering where our next set of funds was coming from to run the organization and to pay payroll. So this is a fun story. I was sitting in the line in my truck in about 2004. The phone rang, my cell phone, and I answered it, and it was the director at that time, and she said, the grant or something fell through and we're not going to get it. And immediately I knew, uh-oh, we're in trouble because we don't have much money in the bank and we were counting on that grant. So I had been told by one of my friends and clients earlier that if we needed anything to let him know and he would see what he could do. So I called him and said, hey, guess what? We need it badly. We are not going to be able to make payroll next week. So he took care of that. And so that was really great. Since probably December of '96, I've provided the accounting services, payroll, bookkeeping, and tax return, things like that. And oversaw the funds, signed checks, lots of checks, and helped set the general direction of the center.
So when I started in 2008, they had a contract therapist that would just come in and out, and we knew that we needed a full-time therapist because we know if children can come back to the center for therapy, that it enriches the whole family because the advocates have time, a lot more time to work with the non-offending parents and caregivers and work as a team to meet their needs, whatever they may be. And so my first grant that I ever wrote was to the Walmart Foundation. And they helped us implement and hire a full-time therapist who actually worked 8 to 5, Monday through Friday at the center. And so eventually it took off the ground, and then we grew space, we grew to 2 full-time therapists, and now we have a clinical director as well as 2 full-time therapists as well as contract therapists. And so it's been amazing to watch that, but it would not have happened without the support of Walmart Foundation.
I don't remember how many staff was at the Children's Safety Center, but early on, one of the executive directors realized that the center didn't have enough money to pay all of their staff their salary. So the executive director for a whole month chose not to pay herself, so to guarantee that the staff would be paid. I felt like, yeah, this person can lead me. If she's willing to step aside for a moment to guarantee that her staff gets paid, then yes, she's my leader.
Well, so I started there in May of '94, and you had already been there.
Yeah, I started in January '93.
Mm-hmm. I just remember bits and pieces of things. Like, I can remember meeting in a room, I think across from where the center is now in another building, and talking about it and kind of all being in agreement that we need to do this, and saying, okay, well, everybody pitch in $5 for the 401c3. So, very seldom did I have cash on hand, but I'm like, here's my $5. And that happened. And then the next thing I remember is being able to tour what's the center now when it was empty, and kind of imagining, well, this could be this, and this could be a conference room, and this will be an interview room, and this will be an advocacy room. And when a case would come in, a child sex abuse case, didn't have an arrest was made, I would contact the family, the interview was already done, but it was probably done at the police department. with an officer who's doing the best he knew how at the time with the training that was available to interview a child and get information, and then that's kind of what we had. As far as any medical services, it would have been the hospital with a doctor who was just doing the best he did with the training he had.
Had absolutely no training. And
Yeah.
I don't remember
And no
even
equipment.
rape kits
No.
in the beginning. The rape kits that came out with the box that you signed off for evidence and all that. I don't remember them until the safety center came up with a protocol of this is how we're going
Right.
to, from here on out, this will be the rape kit, this is how the procedure that'll be followed.
Yeah.
And it's not that the police were not capable of doing it. It's just they were doing everything from shoplifting to murder. It did not take them long to realize that Children's Safety Center is a very important factor in doing these cases, in prosecuting these cases, in investigating these cases. And then they became very willing to, let's go to the safety center. And that was their first reaction. I would say within a year. I think all the departments were completely on board.
It's probably been 6 years ago that I'd like to go and see the nonprofits that deal with people in need. So we went, and I don't know how prepared we were, because we've seen some really harsh things, but that one was really hard. It's something we wish we didn't have to deal with. We wish there weren't people that needed to be served, but there are. So I was very excited for the proposal we're giving for our family, the Hunt family, JB and John L. Hunt family, my family, to be a part of it. And I called my brother, and he was all in for us giving the initial money. And thank you for naming the center after us. We want to be a part. We're part of this community.
It's been a hard road to get here, for sure. I mean, I think that just impressed with the tenure of the staff and the willingness to stick to it, the willingness of the board to keep at it, and not a lot of changeover. But unfortunately, it's still scratching the surface. And I think what's going to happen as we look into the future with the new building and what that can do to expand the opportunity to serve in many more ways, that's the part I get excited about. I'm proud of the past, but I'm passionate about the future.
Not only certain people can do what the staff does and hear and be involved in that. That's, I can't do that as a person. I get too emotional, which I know I'm sure everyone does, but that's why I call the staff superheroes, every day, to stand in that gap for those kids and hear those things and not always have a resolution at the end, which still, bothers me. But yet the board, we can go out and share and be that sidekick to that superhero to help raise the awareness and raise funds and what resources do you need when everybody, again, is all in the same spot. And it hasn't been that till a few years ago, where really both sides have come together of we're all moving this thing forward from a board perspective and the staff. And staff just does great to see the laughter and the fun in the moments it can of the teamwork and the camaraderie. Yeah, I could never do that each day. I couldn't handle it. I know that, but hey, I can be a Robin to Batman. There's no doubt. And raise some money and raise awareness and invite people in and invite them to be uncomfortable the first time.
My daughter said, "Well, my dad, he's not much of a hugger," and that was the same time that I was doing this work, and I was wondering if the work that I did, had an effect on my relationship with my own children, and I suspect that it probably did. It's been important in my development as a physician and as a human to have done that work. Some of the things I learned about collaboration and about listening and about the nature of human suffering that I learned from working at the Children's Safety Center are still with me today.
Having medical at the center is so important because when you're dealing with victims of child abuse, there are so many levels of care that they need. They need care in that moment, getting through a very challenging experience. And then they need care as they go through the criminal justice process. And they need care going through the healing emotionally afterwards. And each of those points is really important. And it's very important that we can do it all in the same location so that families can come and get one-stop care and get all their things taken care of. Because when you're dealing with a crisis, the last thing that you want to deal with is logistics. So there's a lot of different areas of needs in dealing with children who are victims of child abuse. There's the forensic side and just getting a good exam that can be useful as families go through the criminal justice side. But then there's also potential medical issues that can be developed. Unfortunately, sometimes children are diagnosed with STDs after these and need to get medical treatment right away because of potential complications those can cause. And so, or if nothing else, families need to be reassured that their child does not have them. And so we're able to provide some peace of mind for families that no, we've done all the things, we've covered the medical aspects of what they could be dealing with, and either this is how we're going to fix it or they're okay. So one of the things about child abuse is that most people in the community don't understand how widespread it is. And it's one of those things that because it doesn't get talked about, families end up feeling that they're alone. But one of the best things that the center has done is it's getting out there. It's talking about it. It's talking in our community. It's teaching folks how to identify these victims and get them access to care.
It's so special to be able to provide mental health services at the CSC because we're seeing kids that have come in and are traumatized by either sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect, and by being able to provide mental health services, we're adding that component of actual healing. So we're not only helping get the kids out of the situation, but then with the mental health, we're able to start the healing process. And so not only is it just super special to work in an environment where everyone's so passionate, but when you have people that are that passionate about the work, it does become a sacred space. And if I can say anything about our staff and the work that we do, a sacred space is created and kept for our clients, and they feel it when they walk in. A really great story happened recently where I was contacted by somebody in the community who also works in social services, and they had a kid who is living here with their family member. Wasn't able to get their Arkansas insurance yet, kind of in that in-between limbo. Again, if you've ever worked with insurance, you can know how difficult that can be. This particular child had experienced sexual assault and was having a lot of trauma symptoms, including suicidal ideation. And this particular social worker had reached out and was just like, I know that at one point you guys were offering free services. Is that still happening? And to be able to sit there on the phone and be like, yes, like we're still providing free services. Like that's our whole MO. Like you can get them here. Doesn't matter that the abuse happened in another state. Like bring them here. The kid lives here. And she was just so thankful. Because she knew that this kid, and those are her exact words, really was invested in the work, just couldn't pay for it. And so to be able to say to that person, yes, they can come here and it's not going to charge them anything. She was relieved. I was relieved. It was great.
I think what was in my role as victim assistance and kind of following victims through the prosecution, the advocacy piece was so attractive, and I know from my perspective, and really everyone in our office at the time, it was like, this is amazing because someone's going to be immediately in touch with this family, immediately assessing needs, immediately connecting them with, maybe they don't need counseling, maybe they need shoes. You know, it was all kinds of things that became available through advocacy that we couldn't provide out of our office, but were so much needed. And so I can remember early on calling it filling that gap, and filling that gap with such needed services was huge. Just maybe even the biggest thing to come out of it from my perspective.
It was 4th of July and I was on call, and it was probably, 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and I remember getting this call. I was at a cookout at a friend's house, just like people do on 4th of July. And I got this call, and I remember, I had worked at the center at this time for many years, so this wasn't like, I wasn't like the brand new on call where people are excited, like, yeah, I get to go in for, I was like, just frustrated that I had to like leave this cookout and go into work. And I very quickly shifted that focus because I got to work, and the client that I had was a teenage boy, very young teenage boy. Trying not to give too many details, but he had been sexually abused by his stepdad that day, and he was supposed to go on a camping trip with his little brother and his mom and stepdad, and ultimately, obviously, that wasn't going to happen because he had been sexually abused that day by his stepfather, and someone had seen it happen, and so the report was made. And I just remember always thinking, gosh, like I was so mad at myself for being frustrated that I had to go into work that day. And I was just thinking, that kid is going to remember the 4th of July every year, that he had to go to the Children's Safety Center because he had been abused that day. And even though he was abused other days, it wasn't just that day, but that was kind of the day. And you think about holidays and things like that and how you think. And so he was just the sweetest sweetheart. And he put his handprint in my office and put his little first letter of his name in the middle of his handprint. And so I still have it and I see it every day.
I was a child advocate at the time, and this teenager received services at the center, and I'm painting her hand, and she chose black and blue. We put her handprint above my office door, and she didn't stand on anything. She's that tall. I went to her high school basketball game, and she had told me when she was putting her handprint, she chose those colors as school colors. And so while I'm at this basketball game, I noticed that black and blue was not her school colors. And after the basketball game, I asked her and hit her up about it and said, hey, what's up with this? You said your school colors were black and blue, but it's not, that is not your school colors. And she said, well, that is how she felt inside when she put her handprint all bruised, black and blue. As an interviewer, it's my job, with all of the science and knowledge that I have, asking that child or having that child invite me into their world. I'm not inviting them into mine. I'm asking them to invite me into theirs.
Well, I've been involved for 26 years now, and I am really excited about where the center is, what it's doing, where it's going, who's involved, the leadership, the people that work there. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing, and I'm really excited as an accountant could ever get.
Well, you're going to have a much bigger, beautiful space that feels real welcoming, doesn't feel scary. The thought of those children before going to the state police office or police station seems scary. And to think they're going to go into this beautiful building that's set up just to take them in their arms and take care of them and their families. You sure have brought a light to my life to know I'm working on something that can help so many people, and I get to be a part. And there's been so many people. I mean, this is 25 years. So I'm the person right now, but there were people in my family. There were so many people before. And there's going to be so many people afterwards because we are raising those people as we speak.
I just truly, it's so unbelievable that the Safety Center is 25 years old this year. And just to think, back when I started in 2008 and all the growth that we've experienced, I mean, seeing more children in Washington County as well as our team growing, it just always pretty much takes my breath away. And knowing that our team deserves this, the children, the caregivers, and all the partner agencies we work with. They're not going to be on top of each other. They're going to have places to meet with families.
So the future is just so bright. Like, we are going to have so much more space. We're going to be able to hold trainings at our own facility, which I think will be so great as well, because we will be able to do a training with someone and then say, do you want to see like where these things actually take place? Do you want to see what a forensic interview room looks like? Or even if it's a parent, do you want to see what it would look like if your child had to come to the Safety Center for therapy or for an interview or for a medical exam? And so I think that that's going to be really great, but also just having that space that's our own to be able to provide that really, really important education. So I think that we're going to be able to train way more people. I just think we're going to just be able to make such a bigger impact on the community.
And I think the future is where, with this building program and the facility and what can be done inside that facility to expand this impact, and if it's done in the way that I know it will be, which is the way you got here and we got here, I think you'll see all kinds of niche things that will enhance this experience for children and reduce the trauma, but then reignite their future and their hopes in ways that we haven't even explored yet. So, of course, I was shocked to see the building foundational drawings and the amount of investment and what that would mean and the progress on the gifting to get there. It just blew me away, because I always knew and challenged the center to dream big. And I didn't realize they dreamed that big. And so it was definitely the manifestation of a very big dream.
I think the future and where we built has just been a great progression to see, day one of, are we still going to be, the door's still going to be open, back in the day, to where we are today of building a new building, and again, just raising more and more awareness, more and more people know, and more kids coming. So if you're interested in joining us, we've got a bright future. There's a lot happening at the center with our new location, which will be more programs, which will be more kids helped. We're going to need more support, and so we're going to need more people to join us, more sidekicks joining the superheroes. So I would encourage you to find, again, get involved, come and ask a question, take a tour, and join us as for the next 25 plus years at the Children's Safety Center of Washington County.